Hey everyone, my name is Georgie Corona and I'm an artist and designer from Tijuana, Baja California. That's in Mexico, in case you were wondering. I wanted to make this video because I just finished working on my first sculpture. Now, I've done some designs in the past, some product design, some botanical design. That's where my background lies in, but throughout the years I've been able to explore different kinds of disciplines, work with different materials, immerse myself in different fields. So in this video I wanted to share a little bit about how the process of creating this very special piece went through. I also wanted to briefly just talk a little bit about my design style and my philosophy. I guess when it comes to creating, all artists have this sort of like inner intuition that tells them what to create, right? Mine comes a lot from, I'm very drawn towards balance and architectural structures, geometry, triangles mainly. But on the other side, I am very infatuated and enamored by nature. Just plants, animals, the elements, anything that's natural and organic is something that I absolutely love. And when you put these two together, through my eyes, it makes such a beautiful collision and wonderful, just a wonderful, what's the word that I'm trying to say? I don't know, like masterpiece, I guess. So that's sort of where my style and philosophy comes from. I have a big thing in mind that I like to practice, which is work with what you have. Many times we may think that in order to make something we have to go to a supply store or a hardware store and purchase a ton of things, and that's, in my opinion, not very necessary. I like to scavenge around and find old materials and repurpose them, and just kind of like transformation and evolution is something that I want to have my pieces, reflect as well. So I think there's something very beautiful in that, because we as humans also transform and evolve. So why have a product or an art piece just stay stagnant and the same forever, right? So in this piece that I'm about to show you, I guess it sort of pays an homage to my very first design that I made 10 years ago now, when I was in my last semester of college. I took this ceramics class and I fell in love with, creating something out of literally a material which is clay that comes from the ground, and then just see it transform and mold into this shape that, if you didn't know it was ceramic, can probably fool you into thinking that it's something completely different, right? So this is the piece that I made about a decade ago, and it's a planter, which is, like I said before, very structural, geometric, and the purpose of this piece is that it cradles plants. So I don't know, I just liked how beautiful the contrast is with something so organic and natural, and something, it's also, in my, from my point of view, very like temple-like, temples store and hold these like treasures from kings and civilizations and just very precious things. So plants are sort of my treasure and one of the most beautiful things that exist. So I wanted to make little temples for my plants and just kind of like cradle them. So something that I find very unique about this piece as well is that it features the three primary shapes that we learn when we're back in like kindergarten, right? Which are squares, squares are rectangles, triangles, and circles. Okay, so here is where you can actually view these shapes. I'm not going to completely tip it over because I don't want the rocks and the plant to like fall out of the piece. But from up top, you can see the square, right? If you were to flatten the piece and take the dimensions out of it, you could see a rectangle. When I made the 3D version in the computer, it looks like a rectangle with a triangle. The triangle is, what makes the piece stand. It has these panels made up of two different types of triangles. And can anyone guess where the circle is? I'll give you a few seconds to guess. That's right, in the cactus, in the plant. So, surprise. So I wanted to feature this, geometry that we're all familiar with and is such an important part of our lives. And like I said, my new sculpture that I'm about to show you is an homage to this piece, right? This piece is called Ratio. It's the ratio planner, named after the golden ratio, which is this study and formula that's based on balance and, perfect, placement. Now, before jumping into the sculpture that I'm about to show you, I wanted to talk a little bit about the next step after making the planner, which is this space where we're currently at, which is my studio named Plant Factory. I created this space back in 2019, which was around 5 years ago, out of this natural necessity that just bursted from inside of me, which was to be closer to nature. And my city, Tijuana, doesn't have many parks. It's one of the grayest and not very green cities in Mexico. I wanted a space where I could just display my plants and display my pieces. So I started buying one plant, then 10, and now I think I have a good amount, probably over 100. It's very just special for me because it's become like my sanctuary, my garden where I chill and read books and have my friends over and drink some tea. And it's completely open. It's very nice to just be working and hearing birds in the background. I don't know if you could hear some, but that's very special to me. I wanted to have an open office where birds can sort of just fly in and drink water from the fountain, and we can keep each other some company. Now that's a good, I think, transition to my sculpture. Finally, birds, right? They are the creature that inspired my piece, which is a sculpture called Nido, right? Since I was very young, I've had a very special connection with them. They're my favorite animal, and when I was a teen, I volunteered at this bird sanctuary where they rescued birds, and I'd be able to feed hawks, and it was just so amazing, right? And something that I find very special about birds is that they're creators as well. They are these tiny little architects that go out and scavenge and find materials to make their nests, right? And they have this completely out of a natural instinct. They find whatever they think they can, implement into this nest when they are close to laying their eggs and hatching their baby birds. And then they use it as their cradle and as their little home and hatch their birds, their babies, hatchlings, I forget what they're called, chicks, I don't know. That and my ratio planner combined, was the inspiration for this piece that I'm about to show you. So enough talking, let's go see the sculpture. All right, you guys, so here is the first look at my Nido sculpture. First, I wanted to talk about how the creation of this piece came about. So as you can see, it's made up of several different materials, right? We've got some rope, we've got some metal, we've got some, these things right here that are woven into the piece are actually dried up agave roots. I know, crazy, right? Inside we have obviously the soil, we have some rock, and we have a beautiful cactus right here. So I say the first thing that I had was the hanger. I got these ropes from an ex-coworker that I used to work with back in the day. We used to work at this shop, and she was a display coordinator and made the window displays for this store. So we bonded and made a pretty cool connection, and we started, you know, we did some like freelance projects with this really cool music festival that takes place here in Baja. So she ended up donating me these ropes that she had lying around, and I made this massive plant hanger out of this amazing rope with, you know, this like pom-pom here at the bottom, and I really liked it, right? So one day I was just looking at it, right, and I was like, you know what would look really cool inside of that hanger? A giant ratio planner. So I was thinking about how to make this giant piece, right? Because if you compare it in size, here's a mirror one that I designed, but if you compare it in size, it's, I don't know how many of these could fit in there, but it's a lot bigger, right? This is like 2 feet by a foot, and yeah, it's completely blown up, right? So of course I wasn't gonna make it out of ceramics because that's not impossible, but a little more complicated. And I thought about making out of like wood or full metal. So I decided, so that it wasn't too heavy, to make this like skeleton out of this bar of metal that I found lying around in one of the lots that my family has. It was from a construction, so I really liked this like rustic finish that it had, and ended up cutting the pieces together, soldered them, and made the skeleton of the piece, right? And after, I made these 4 panels that essentially cradle the plant, and those were from this perforated sheet of metal that they use for like grills or fences and whatnot. And once I had that, I was brainstorming, and I was like, okay, so now I have this structure. How am I actually gonna make it functional for the plant so that, I mean, you don't pour the soil and everything just seeps out, right? So that's where the idea to make a jumbo nest came in. My dog is freaking out. I found this really amazing root from an agave that I had. It was an agave attenuata. I'll show you that guy in just a sec. When plants have outgrown their pots and the roots, you know, just don't fit there anymore, they start to, most of them at least, start to like coil around the plant, and this means that they are root bound. Sorry, my dog. Tulio, hey! Ven! Ven! ¿Qué pasó? Okay, we're gonna have an assistant for a while. So as I was saying, root-bound plants, right? So when they don't have any more room because they've outgrown their nursery pot or whatever, they start to, you know, grow these roots, and they start to go around the circumference of the planter. Found this cluster of roots that this agave had, you know, just and didn't really need anymore. And I really like how the texture and the color and everything looked like. So what I ended up doing was drying out the roots, and I wove them into the, you know, the center, which is this pyramid that holds the plants. I am rarely into like artisanal crafting and just these techniques that are very, very traditional, I guess. So I wanted to make this sort of like basket made out of dried up roots. And let me just tell you that working with these fibers was quite the challenge, because they were dried up roots, and just having them, like having to manipulate them wasn't the easiest thing. Some of them would just snap and crumble up, so it did take some time. In total, on and off, this piece took me around like 1.5 years to make, just because, like I said, I made it in different stages, right? The hanger, the structure, then I let it just sit for a moment, and then I put in the panels, and then I wove in the roots. And then inside, I lined it completely with coconut husk. It's this fiber that coconuts have on the outside, just because it's a natural material. And I really liked how it looks. The color went well with the palette that I have going on. And yeah, so at the end, I filled it up with soil, put my cactus in the center, and put the rocks in the end to give it this, like, you know, more decorative just vibe. And I also think that it's our responsibility to sort of style our plants so that they're happy and are looking handsome. And I don't know, since cactus live in the desert and it's very just dry and sandy and rocky, I like to, you know, make it feel like it's back where it came from, right? This is the final result, and here are some shots so you can just appreciate the details. Okay, so I didn't want to end this video without saying some final thoughts, and I guess what comes to mind is that I really appreciated making this piece. I think having a creative outlet, whatever it is that you choose to have, is such an essential part of our life. For me, like I said, I like nature and gardening and art and design and building. So I liked how the piece that I made 10 years ago just evolved into this piece now and brought along with it some of my own personal growth, and I'm so happy with the result. I wish that this piece maybe in the future can enter a contest or something, or I could display it and just share it with not only this wonderful community through the screen, but also in a more physical form. And I will definitely be making more sculptures and designs in the future whenever that inspiration and idea comes to my mind and my soul. So I guess that's it. Thank you so much for coming along on this journey with me, for listening to me speak about this piece that took me a while to make, but the outcome, I think, was just wonderful, and I really love it. So thank you guys. Until next time.